Patrick, when was the light bulb moment when you went from being a failed day trader to the #1 day trader on YouTube? Well, I look back at my young childhood and I think there was the moment. No, honestly, there wasn't. When I really think about it, when I really look back at the last 8 years of learning to day trade here on YouTube, there wasn't like an exact moment. It was many things along the way happening to get to a point where I was like, oh, wait, maybe, doing something simple like just getting long when the market wants to go up, maybe getting short when the trend is pointing down. When I stopped trying to reinvent the wheel, when I stopped trying to pick the top, trying to pick the bottom, trying to come up with some brainiac idea on how to get rich, when I really stopped trying to do that and I just simply started trading, that is when things started to click. And I think a lot of traders, when they first start out, that's their biggest problem because they're searching for the holy grail. They're searching for the answer. They want someone online to say, hey, do this and get rich, right? Everybody just wants to get rich with one simple idea, but it's a process and everyone's process is going to be a little bit different. Everybody's going to kind of see the market a little bit different. Everybody's got to kind of go through the different phases, the different experiences. Like if you don't experience what it's like to blow up an account, well, you don't really have that, right? Like you don't have that experience. If you don't experience what it's like trying to fight the trend over and over when the market's going straight down, you're trying to buy the dip. If you don't experience that, well, you're not going to learn a lesson. So you've got to learn these lessons. You got to go through it. The fact that there wasn't an exact moment is maybe why it actually, it kind of worked. For example, Friday, 15-minute range. We love it. We love it. We love it. You got your first candle of the day. Put a line on there. This is textbook, right? Textbook. So many people want to overcomplicate this. Check it out, right? We got our 15-minute opening range right there. Dupe the high, 45 candle, like right in here. This is our opening range. So we break out here. From the 280s, we pushed all the way up there to the 990s. That's over 100 points off of something as simple as just putting lines on the frickin' chart. There's your low of the opening range down here. There's your high of the opening range. The fact that we kind of go from here to here and then bull flag and then, well, that's obviously what we're looking for. Again, is it a light bulb moment? Does it blow your mind? Are you just absolutely amazed? Are you going to start making millions of dollars now that you know about the 15-minute opening range? Probably not. There's a very low chance, obviously. But what it does is it starts to make you question doing stupid things, right? Question the idea of like, wait, why am I going to get short when we just broke out of the 15-minute opening range? Why am I going to get long if we break to the downside? These are things that are important as a trader. Questioning like the different ideas of a trade. If I'm looking to get long, I want to ask questions. I want to be like, hey, okay, what did we just do? We broke out. Okay, hey, we're looking bullish. Oh, hey, look, we got a little bull flag here. Oh, okay, hey, we're holding that. Like the more questions I can answer, the better. But again, like, is it a light bulb moment? Probably not. This is 8 years culminating, growing, building, learning. And what's funny is there never really has been a better time than right now to be a trader. And that sounds funny because when I first started trading, there wasn't a lot of resources. It was a lot different back in the day. 8 years ago, back when I was just a young boy on YouTube, it was a lot different. But right now, there's so much information out there. There are so many platforms. There are so many websites. There are so many prop firms. There are so many different ways to trade and make money in today's market. And that's giving traders more of an advantage than ever before. Now, again, I don't think there's anything that is like, oh my God, you have to do this. I've seen plenty of traders who have a very unconventional type of trading style that make money. And it's funny because like those people that do things maybe a little differently, maybe they trade with a certain indicator, maybe they trade with a certain kind of theory, a process, whatever it is. Like they've went through it, right? Like they've put in the time, they put in the effort, they found an edge, and it might not be for everybody. It might not like qualify as the best strategy in the entire world, but it works for them. So if you're watching this video right now and you're struggling and you're like, Patrick, I want to find my thing. I'm like, hey, the only way to find your thing is to put in the time, to put in the effort, to show up. If you blow up and you no longer show up, right? If you blow up, you no longer show up, well, then you're not going to have any ability to learn, to build, and become more experienced in the markets. I mean, 8 years of seeing the ups, the downs, the different bubbles, the crypto, the pot stocks, AMC, GME, all these different things over time. I've seen people come into the market for the first time ever. They buy a stock that they think is going to go to the moon, and they find out very quickly that just because somebody on Twitter said that a stock's going to go to $500 does not mean it's going to go to $500. But if I tell that person, like, hey, you know, hey, maybe AMC's not going to go to $1,000, they think that I'm an asshole. They think that they hate me for it. They hate me for telling them. But then when they find out from the experience, they're like, oh, that guy was right. That crazy guy with blonde hair on YouTube was right. He told me AMC was not going to go to 1,000, and I didn't believe him. But now I've learned. And that's kind of like dating, right? I think about that, like, if your best friend has a really terrible girlfriend and you tell your best friend, like, hey, she's terrible. Like, I hate her. She's a terrible person. If you tell your friend that, he's going to get angry at you. He's probably going to hate you. Like, you know, like, people don't want to hear the truth. They have to experience it. And that's trading, right? I can sit here all day and tell you what not to do, what to do, all that, right? You can buy the course, pay the $200, buy the course, sign up, but it's not going to stop you from doing something stupid. It's not going to stop you from trying to fight the trend. It's not going to stop you from blowing up your account, because you're the person that has to kind of press the button at the end of the day. You've got to go through the experience. You've got to kind of learn why certain things happen and then be able to put it into perspective of like, okay, if we just broke out of the 15-minute high, the opening range here, we've got this kind of overnight high up here, like, okay, like, where could we possibly be going? Like, you've got to kind of build up this experience and see how the market's moving and be like, hey, look, it's kind of interesting how we dipped below this 9 a.m. low. We dipped below there and then we ripped up. So is that like a lesson to learn here? The fact that, hey, we dipped below this low, we popped right back up, we break out here, we build a bull flag. In the future, you're going to see this setup and be like, oh, look, I've seen this before. We already ran the low we ran this like kind of 9 a.m. low right here, a little double bottom. We push up, we build out a bull flag. We got the 15-minute opening range breakout. It's all perfect. If I look at the hourly chart, I'm like, well, where can we go? You know, if I'm looking at this, I'm like, where are we going to go? Well, there's a pretty damn good chance that we kind of test this previous area, right? Kind of do right up in there. We went, bam, 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 bam. The W, baby. WWW, winners win. But in all seriousness, I want to really kind of drive home a very serious topic here, that there is no secret to getting rich in the market other than, I think, probably just don't fight the trend. I mean, that's the long term, that's the short term, everything. You know, if you're thinking about investing in some company that's only been going down for the last 30 years or last 10 years, last 5 years, like, what's the trend doing? What is the market kind of telling you? What is happening? If you're buying, Bitcoin at the highs when it just went up 50%, you're questioning, like, oh, maybe that wasn't the best idea. But it's experience, right? You've got to get into the markets. You've got to experience it to be able to build on that. My course, yes, it's $200. Yes, I break down a lot of the basics, a lot of the stuff that I learned over the last 8 years. But in general, you personally, like you watching the video, you right now, you got to go through it. You got to go through the ups. You got to go through the downs. Hopefully you can avoid wasting 8 years of doing that. But I think even as you become more and more experienced and even more better in the markets, you still have to like keep learning. It's a constant evolution. It's a constant classroom effect, right? Like every day the market kind of does something a little different, a little tricky. You'll see things you've seen before, but then it does something different. You're like, oh, so you see these things, you build on that, you learn it, you put it in the memory bank. It starts to become like muscle memory. You see these setups, and then when they play out, you're like, damn, like I saw that setup playing out before it even happened. And that right there, my friends, that's just experience. It's time in the markets, time in the chair, time in front of the screens. And that's the biggest light bulb moment that I could ever share with you, is being in front of the screens, trading consistently, doing it for years, and just kind of building and growing as a trader. That's the process. There is no exact moment when it all just clicks. But sometimes you're like, hey, a couple years ago when I used to trade so-and-so stock or whatever, I used to trade the range or, the opening range, and now I can apply that to futures. And look at that, it works. Like the opening range breakout setup, like I actually learned that from trading, stocks, equities back in the day. Like when I would trade, just random stocks, I would basically look at the first 5-minute candle, the first 1-minute candle, whatever it was, and I would trade the idea of like breaking out of that range. So I just kind of had that experience back from trading stocks, small caps, and then I've applied it to futures, and I've kind of tweaked it, and I've kind of built on it, and I've kind of become who I am because of all the stuff that I did in the past, trading the small caps, trading crypto, trading the ETFs, trading options. Like I did all of that to get to where I'm at now, trading futures. And would I ever go back? Hell no. There's no reason to go back. There really is no reason to trade anything but futures. Anybody that tells you differently is full of shit. This is where the real traders trade. This is the real markets. You're trading the NASDAQ, trade the ES, trade the Dow, trade the Russell, trade oil, whatever you want. But I'm telling you, if you're serious, you want to get into this, you want to build on this, you just got to start, and you got to start absorbing every day. Every day, a little bit better. Every day, learning something new, building on that, seeing what other people are doing. I don't ever look at something that someone's doing if they're profitable and go oh, no, that's a scam. I kind of look at it, I'm like, okay, all right, so he took a trade there. All right, that kind of lines up with where I would have traded. So it's funny because I see some traders, we have totally different trading strategies, but we end up entering trades at almost the same area. Is that a coincidence? Or is it basically just saying that the best strategies out there really at the end of the day are just kind of riding the momentum in the market, riding the trend. The trend is your friend. It doesn't matter what strategy that you trade, the trend is your friend. So someone can trade a totally different strategy than you, but still see the market kind of in the same way of hey, I think this is going to go higher. Oh, you think it's going to go higher? Well, I think it's going to go higher based on this. And they're like, oh, well, based on my strategy, it's going to go higher. I'm like, well, who cares as long as we're making money? So light bulbs, they go off, but the market is just always turned on. The market light bulb is just always burning, and you got to just sit back and take a look at it sometimes, my friends. There it is, the moment of truth. How did I get where I'm at? Well, 8 years of determination, never giving up, never surrendering, and only believing that I am the #1 day trading channel on YouTube. If you guys haven't already hit that like button, subscribe button, you know what to do. Peace to the Middle East.